We're meeting remotely, obviously, in accordance with state guidelines. For public participation, I see there's some public here, but others, we still need to use email. If you're watching this streamed on Holyoke Media and you have questions, you can email your questions to Amy Landau, who is the project manager for the committee. And Amy's email address is landaua@holyoke.org. So one more time, that's landaua@holyoke.org. So let's dive in. We have 2 agenda items. One is review of minutes from our February 19th, 2020 meeting. And we also have minutes in a draft form for our April 22nd, 2020 meeting minutes. So let's start with February 19th. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Anybody have any comments?
Okay, motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Got
sorry,
that, Nick?
folks. Let me get my camera back up here. Sorry, I was in the notes.
That's okay. I think it
Israel,
was,
Can everyone just put up their hands? Let me go to gallery view so I can see
I think it was
everybody and who
unanimous.
voted. Okay, looks like that's yes.
Israel, you're
Oh,
muted.
Mr. Sullivan, you're here. Hi. Sorry, I didn't see you earlier. Okay, thanks everyone. All right, got it. It's unanimous.
and we also have the April 22nd, 2020 minutes. And again, has everybody had a chance to review them? Any comments, questions, suggested changes? All set?
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second again.
Israel, you're muted. You got to unmute yourself.
He doesn't.
I guess I
There you are.
yeah.
All right, so go ahead. Did you have some questions or comments on the minutes?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I was agreeing with you guys. That's what I said. Like, I just
Mike, you made a
stay
motion.
muted for just to keep it going.
Did we have a second on that motion?
I'll take a second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it looks like we have a unanimous approval of the April 22nd meeting. So now we jump into agenda item number 2, which is a consideration of the 2020 applications that are in front of us. At our last meeting, just quickly summary, we approved or recommending funding of 4 projects. The stained glass windows, Lady Liberty statue, the Holyoke merry-go-round, and Wisteria Hearst electrical upgrades. By my count, those total about $260,670. I think that's right. If I'm not right, it's
I had 235,670. Let me go back because I know I sent an email with all that.
Yeah, I mean, I just did this quickly right now, so I might be missing something, but I had 80 for stained glass. Oh, I'm sorry, that's where I made a mistake. I put Lady Liberty at 50. It's 25. So you're right. It's the 235,670. So that's out of a total funds availability that we've been working with as of approximately 615,000. That leaves us about $375,000 left, correct?
Well, actually, I recently wrote to everybody about this, and I said that 324,330 is the approximate amount that remains if our total funds collected come to 560,000.
Okay, because we
Um,
scaled back.
But it's possible that it could be less than that if just going by our current collections, which have come to 514,240.46 at this moment in time, or roughly we have 278,580.46 remaining. So it kind of depends on whether you want to go
Right.
on, what Andrew McMahon believes, and based on the estimates we've gotten that the total
Right, well-
collected could come to about 560,000, or if you want to be more modest
Well-
about it, or moderate.
Well, I think at this point it's probably reasonable to say that instead of the 325, let's look at, $275,000. We start approaching those numbers, we can take a closer look at it or give some further consideration. But so we've recommended the 4 projects, and we have other projects in front, on the list in front of us for our consideration. There was one project that the Topford basketball court, and I see that Matt and Alicia are here. So I don't know if it's for that agenda item. I think I saw some communication regarding withdrawing that application. But if that's not the case, then let's maybe I suggest we discuss that one first. Give us a sense of where we are on that one. We had someone who made a motion and we had tabled it. So Mike Falsetti, you have something you want to add to the conversation?
Oh, no, Mr. Chairman, he did withdraw it. So it's a moot point. The application is withdrawn.
Okay, does everybody agree? We're all on the same page that document communication is the latest communication, no further consideration of that project at this point?
And it was withdrawn because of the concerns they had around federal and state legislative requirements being in conflict, right?
Matt is here, so we could ask
Yeah,
him.
I'm sorry. Matt Mainville, Holyoke Housing Authority. How are you? I wanted to take a beat after Mr. Falsetti brought it to my attention. What we're going to do is take an opportunity to take a beat to go back to our funders to get clarification on that particular point. So for this particular round, we are definitely withdrawing our application. We are here for another. We
Okay,
have another later on in your in the list of particular projects you're looking at. We do have another project that we'd like to be able to stick around and discuss if you have any questions.
Okay, Matt, that sounds good. Does anybody else have any comments they want to make right now on that?
No.
Okay, so the way we had been proceeding with this is committee members were making motions to fund projects, and then we were deliberating and taking votes one way or another. I think that it makes sense to continue in that process for now. It's not perfect, but it's probably as good as anything else, at least in my opinion. I'm open to a discussion about whether people feel strongly about proceeding in a different manner. But I haven't really heard a lot of opposition to it. So, if it's okay with everybody, I would suggest we just continue that way. People have a project they want to make a motion to fund, make it, we'll debate it. We know what we have left approximately for funding, which is on the conservative side of it, because it is reflective of all the cash the city had received through last probably almost 2 weeks ago now, right? and there's the rest of this quarter collection, so it's likely somebody's going to continue to pay their property taxes. So our budget may go up a little bit, but we don't need to, I don't think, worry about that yet until we start getting close and say whether someone has projects they want to fund beyond that. So anybody have a project they want to make a motion to fund, and we can have a discussion about that?
Are the members who are joining us, are they going to be sharing any new information with us? Or I just see, Matt Mainville's on the call. So is Sarah Meyer-Zimbler and Stephen Huntley, or is that much later on?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting little wrinkle to the agenda that they are here, and I don't want to drag them along, forever if we don't need to. So, Matt, does someone want to make a motion? We'll talk about the ones that we think that they're interested in, or do we want to have a conversation with them about what's going on, and then we can make motions later?
Well, do they want to talk about, I'm guessing the emergency housing funding? Is that why they're here?
I don't know. Matt, what's up? Quick.
Yeah, I can give you the 2-second. We applied for and have submitted an application for 2 houses that were to be constructed on Jackson Street. That was going to be done in collaboration with Habitat for Humanity. We're still continuing down that road. This is our first time applying for CPA, so I'm not sure what the process looked like. I didn't know if you guys needed our input today or if this was just redundant. So we're just making ourselves available for questions or concerns that you might have. If we're kind of just window dressing and you don't need us to participate, I suppose we could drop off and just view as the rest of the public is, but we just wanted to make ourselves available.
Mr. Mainville, do you want to say anything about the idea that we could use CPA money for emergency housing assistance for folks who are falling kind of between the cracks in terms of maybe not traditionally falling underneath housing support, but suddenly because they can't work, will sort of need, kind of rental assistance once the moratorium on evictions ends and suddenly back rent is due?
We're kind of in a unique set of circumstances in that our folks won't really have a issue as it relates to that. HUD just came out with the last relief act that the federal government put together that's providing us additional subsidy to cover any kind of situation where that might be an occurrence. And I'm aware that the state has also funded some additional money in the RAFT program. And so those are the only 2 bits of information that I have. I understand that there might be a gap that folks might fall into, but I'm not completely educated about that. So I don't think I should take an opportunity to try and opine about it. But I do know that some people have targeted that. I know some other communities are using CPA for that use. But that's all I really know. We're
exploring it. We're just not quite sure what it means or what it would look like.
Yeah, I think we as a collective, Sarah and I and our people in our office have thought about it and recognize that it would be, you would have to put in place an entire process as it relates to intake and doling out the funds. And we don't have the bandwidth to start to look at that in a real way because we're going to be running into a lot of people that are going to be coming in for recertifications based off of lost income. So our staff will be flat out. And like I said, we'll have the resources to be able to work with our folks so that we won't hopefully have any situations where we're working our way towards eviction based on loss of income. But I know that other housers might have different situations. So like I said, I don't want to really.
Steve, I see you have your hand up, but let's let Mike Sullivan talk first and then we'll come to you, okay? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, just to give everybody a little update here, CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant funding, has received an additional $740,000 in addition to their normal funding from HUD for addressing coronavirus issues. That money is already, I believe, available. in the city. Alicia Zoller's put out applications for various types of funding and uses for it. I believe it's going to be a pretty quick process. As I understand it, it's just going to be administered through the mayor's office. So that's an additional $740 that's into the city right now as we speak. So
Thanks. Steve, you had something you wanted to say on this topic?
Yes, so this is why I joined the meeting today. And thank you, Mr. Sullivan, for that. Because that was the first thing I was going to mention, is that the city has committed CDBG resources, or the city has been awarded CDBG resources,
right.
and has said they're open to using it for rental assistance. So we, as Valley Opportunity Council, intends to apply for some of that resource. The speed of it coming out is a little maybe longer than I'd initially thought. They just pushed off the due date of the application till somewhere around mid-May. But that said, this isn't an emergency today. This is what we at VOC are calling more of a tier 2 emergency. Once the dust settles and we find out when the Holyoke Mall can reopen and people can start to get back to work and get back to find out what actually the gap of earnings is going to equate to. It's still very unclear what unemployment's going to look like. A lot of folks have applied for unemployment, haven't seen anything yet. A lot of folks are getting their stimulus checks in the mail or direct deposit or however that looks. So it's really unclear what the gap of people's money is going to look for. So my thinking for the group, I won't even say recommendation, because that would be really, I don't think it's even fair for me to say that, but my thinking for the group would be to table this for a little bit, the rental assistance discussion, because there is in fact community development block grant money that's going to be coming to the city, and I believe it's a priority that they're trying to use it for. So this isn't the first money in to any sort of rental assistance programming. And another thing to note is that the city of Holyoke is a CDBG entitlement community, which means HUD puts out the money and entitlement communities get it. A lot of the CPA communities that are looking at this are not CDBG entitlement communities. So they're trying to cobble together less resources than Holyoke has for this. Now, that doesn't mean Holyoke doesn't have the need, and please don't hear me as saying there's no need. I just don't think there's the information to move forward on this today or in the near future. And I'd hate for this, especially because the committee was so generous in awarding us money a few years back, to have this be the first money out when there are other sources that could be the first money out.
Thank you. I think I think we kind of came to the same general conclusion ourselves. First, we don't have an application in front of us, so we're not considering funding anything. We are aware that we may get some, at which time we will, give them due consideration. We can fund on like an emergency cycle or not. We have a tremendous amount of flexibility. What we were trying to do, and what is helpful to know about the $750,000 of federal money, is that we were deliberating about whether it made sense to reserve some funds in case it's required, and if it's not, and all we did was talk about it. If there's no demand for it, then that money can just go into more conventional CPA projects in the next funding cycle. We can roll these monies over. So that's something that I think each member is giving some consideration to as we're deliberating about funding any of the other projects, and particular like the housing, and it's not unanimous on the board. And so with that, we'll go with Mr. Falsetti. What do you have to say?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to award the housing application from the Holyoke Housing Authority. Although, unfortunately, we don't have the funds to fully, and I'm referring now to the construction of 2 single-family homes on Jackson Street, and we don't have $200,000 available to us for this one particular. So I would recommend that we give them $120,000. So if we can help build 2 homes for $120,000, I think that's a good deal. We are combining with the Holyoke Housing Authority is combining with the Habitat for Humanity, which is looked favorably upon by the governor and this legislature to combine 2 agencies to produce good work. Here we have the Housing Authority combining with the Habitat for Humanity and building 2 homes for first-time home buyers. Like I said, because we don't have that much money, I'm not recommending $200,000. I'm recommending $120,000. And if we can help build 2 homes for $120,000, that's a pretty good deal. So I would just like to make a motion for $120,000 to fund the construction of 2 single-family homes by the Holyoke Housing Authority in combination with the Habitat for Humanity.
Do we have a second? Amy, we'll discuss it. Do we have a second? No, I'll second it. I'll second that motion for 120, and now we'll open it up to discussion. So, Mike, do you have the sense that 120 gets this project, is that enough for them to move forward with this, or are we funding something that they can't move forward with?
No, they won't move forward. If they don't have the money, HUD won't let them move forward. The Housing Authority will have to search out other grants and combine other sources of money to do this. But certainly $120,000 is better than nothing. And we can, like I said, if we can partner with the Habitat for Humanity and contribute $120,000 that results out of our pocket, that results in building 2 single-family homes on a vacant lot that will look very much like the Churchill homes do now. I think that's a good deal for the city, and it's a good deal for us and our program and our committee to do that. I mean, that's on the cheap, certainly, but certainly the Housing Authority will. If they don't have the funds, it doesn't go through. But I'm fairly confident in Matt and Sarah and the team with the many projects they have going for them, and with the very high esteem that the governor holds for the Holyoke Housing Authority, we can proceed even using the $120,000.
Okay, anybody else on the committee have some comments? And then I do think it makes sense to ask Matt and Sarah, but I wanted to check and see if the committee has any other comments or input.
I do. What other housing projects do we have to consider? I'm not sure how many we're going to be able to fund, but I would want to make sure that we've compared them.
So the other housing application is 1 Holyoke CDC for a home ownership housing on Dwight Street for $199,000, 101, for the creation of a new 2-family home constructed on an empty lot on the corner of Dwight and Beach Street.
Yeah, Megan, it's $199,000 each.
No.
It's only 1 home, ain't it?
No, it says creation of a new 2-family home, home ownership, and it says I'm reading it right there. It says $199,000 total, $389,000.
Yeah, but that's the total they're putting into it, but they're asking for 199, 101.
Oh, all right.
That's
Well,
the request.
my fault. I presumed they were talking 2, and 2 times 199 is pretty close to 389.
No, I've just put on the chart you're looking at. It says the amount of the request and then the total cost of the project, from other sources. But I do have a question, if I may speak, about, I'm wondering, I know, Mike, you made this motion for $120,000 for the Holyoke Housing Authority and Habitat for Humanity, but I'm wondering if they would be able to construct 2 single-family homes with that amount of money, since the request was for $200,000 and the total project would cost $714,680.
well, they're getting it, well, to answer your question, Amy, they would before, well, here, a better way would be to ask
Just
Matt.
ask
I
them?
mean,
Oh, I would love to hear from Matt. Yeah.
ask Matt.
Sarah.
So Matt or Sarah, if you guys want to chime in, on, we're deliberating funding a reduced amount, 120,000 to help get those houses built, and would be welcome
Yeah,
your comment on that.
I'm sorry, I don't have the gallery screen, so I can't see when people stop talking, so I apologize if I'm talking over you, Kip. Obviously, we had a thought out process as it relates to the $200,000 ask. But that being said, we could find the other dollars to make it work if in fact we were funded the $120,000. What that would mean for us is that some projects that we have in the pipeline currently, well, we would push back. This is a priority for us. That Churchill neighborhood has been kind of a near and dear to my heart for a lot of years. That's where I started at the Housing Authority. So I would really like to see a continuation of those two homes. It's important to the park across the street. So we could make it work. Like I said, it makes a little bit tighter on the other end with some other projects, but certainly it wouldn't affect our capacity to move this forward and to move South Holyoke forward, which were our two primary concerns at the time. But yeah, so if $120,000, we could commit to getting it done.
Sarah, did you want to add anything? All set. Okay. Mike Sullivan.
Yeah, so am I understanding this correctly that we're going to build 2 houses and that the total cost for the 2 houses is $714,000?
Go ahead, Matt.
Well, by the time we do environmental remediation, we have to have the site surveyed.
Yeah.
We have to do development for, we have to create buildable lots, do an A&R. So all costs in, it'll be somewhere around that. Yeah. The other thing is you got to remember is that we have to pay prevailing wage, which is a significantly higher rate than some nonprofits have to pay. And then we'll have to bid this under Chapter 149 as well, which adds costs. So as a housing authority, it's not like Matt Mainville on the private market goes out and constructs a house. It's significantly different than if Matt Mainville, the executive director of the housing authority, has to go through the process of design, getting those stamped, going through the public bidding process, and then also having to pay prevailing wage.
If I could just add, by partnering with Habitat for Humanity and also by the housing authorities also contributing funding to the project, so the total cost of the 2 homes may appear high, but I think when combined with all the different funding sources, it becomes a reality to have 2 new families living in those homes.
So
Can you remind me if this also includes parking lot or some improvements as well to the parcel, but is not related to the 2 houses?
Yeah, so the housing authority will be doing some work, but that is not included in this application.
Okay.
So right now, let me just,
Mike,
no problem. Just the average assessed value of a Churchill home is, I believe, 120,000 or something like that. Can you answer that, Matt?
I think it's a little bit north of that. I want to guesstimate somewhere around 140, but I haven't checked recently, Mike.
All right. So, I mean, even still with all the other things going on, it's going to cost us $357,000 to build a $145,000 house.
Yeah, I mean, that's not an inaccurate statement, is that we are constructing monies. There is a gap. That's why that's our objective as a housing authority, is to provide housing opportunities for folks. The thing that I will say is it's a piece of property that will put taxes onto the properties onto the tax rolls that haven't been for a significant period of time. It helps people with economic mobility. and it gives people in the lower 4 census tracts an opportunity to have a multitude of housing opportunities, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's the model of the housing authority, and that's kind of the business we're in, is being able to provide good, affordable housing to folks in different types, housing, rental, and home ownership. So that's kind of, but that's not an inaccurate statement.
Yeah. So, I mean, isn't there any other mechanism or some kind of a grant program or assistance program where the potential homeowner would be able to get some guarantees or some help with the bank or some down payment where they could do it themselves and it wouldn't have to go through prevailing wage and all the rest of this, where you're basically paying 3 times the price. I mean, you could build 6 homes for this price if there was a different mechanism to do it or a different angle to approach it.
To be quite honest with you, Mike, I've never really explored that, but I haven't heard of that particular type of housing development model before. It is a skill to be able to construct a house, obviously, to hire a general contractor or do it yourself. And so, and to be honest with you, I don't know if a bank would set up construction financing for that type of model. I mean, it's something I could explore, but it's nothing that I have seen in this type of model before.
So let me just maybe state the obvious. Mike raises a good point that, but that the cost of constructing almost anything in Holyoke probably exceeds what its post-construction market value is going to be, which is why the private sector hasn't built those 2 houses yet, and or many houses downtown. And if we're going to build, if there's going to be construction, it's going to take public-private type of partnerships to get it done. And so that's part of why the CPA funds are here, is to to help bridge that gap. It's particularly effective in Holyoke. So I just want to make that point. So, anybody else have any comments under discussion? We have a motion in a second. Go ahead, Izzy.
I guess I think I'm not, just to say, like, we don't have much money left, right? And if we did the 120, then we would probably have like 100 and something left, or less than that, probably.
Yeah, like
right?
150.
124.
All right.
If we did the full, hold on, let me go back.
So, and
No, it isn't. It's more than that.
It is, yeah. 'Cause I was thinking the full 200,000.
It's more than that, Izzy.
Okay, so
160.
I'm looking, and when it comes to like the building a new home, I'm with the whole Jackson Street remodel thingamajigger. Like, it's totally awesome, love it. But adding another home in that area, which is awesome, would be great. In that lot, I would love to see it full too. Compared to where Dwight and Beach Street kind of does need some love, I'm not gonna lie. That community over there, I feel like kind of has been abandoned for quite some time. But not to, like, just looking at if we're gonna fund one or the other, for me, I would have to say, and I like the Jackson Street project, but I feel wrong not investing money into a community that hasn't been invested in for a long time and just letting it be. That's just me personally, and I wanted to say that.
That's good input.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Mayor, welcome. Do you have any comments on this proposal?
No, not at this point, because I came in just a minute ago, so I'm not sure exactly what's been discussed already. So,
well, that we have a motion and a second to fund $120,000 for the Holyoke Housing Authority and their Habitat for Humanity partnership. to build the 2 houses on Jackson Street.
Okay.
I have a question.
Marco.
And I may have missed it, and I apologize if I'm repeating or if I haven't seen something, but how are the recipients of this house grant, etc., like how are we choosing them, and how are we going to be sure that they can, you know, maintain and keep up the house and do all that? Like, I would love to have somebody buy me a house, right? And I want to make sure that it goes to the right person. Like, is there a process that we can make sure that our funds are going to, you know, be destined to prosper and not, you know, turn into something that we don't want?
Matt, you want to respond to how you select who the 2 lucky 2 families are that are going to benefit from, you know, the CPA funds in your partnership with Habitat for Humanity?
Sure. So I think first and foremost, not to go too far backwards, but just to give you some information, the Housing Authority is lucky enough to partner with the city to do the city's first-time homebuyer training program, and also do to meter out the first-time homebuyer BAP, Buyer's Assistance Program. So we have a long track record of being able to provide educational opportunities for folks that are first-time home buyers. So we would make sure that the person that was purchasing the Housing Authority's home would have gone through that first-time home buyers training, were income eligible, and had credit worthiness and those types of things. And then we would do kind of like a lottery draw to make sure that we were doing it in a random, equitable fashion. But you know, in order to get into that particular pot of folks that are going to be eligible for this home ownership opportunity, you would have to have some money for down payment. You would have had to be credit worthy, because you're going to have to go to a lending institution and get a mortgage, obviously. So many of the same things that a normal, if you were purchasing on the open market, you know, all those same types of things. You'd have to be credit worthy. You'd have to have money for the down payment. You would have had to gone through the trainings. And just as an FYI, you know, we've been doing this for a while and have had a significant number of homes we've sold. And I think over the course of my years being here at the Housing Authority, we've only really suffered 2 or 3 foreclosures, and we're talking in the neighborhood of 80 or 90 homes over the course of a number of years. So I think that we have a track record in making sure that we are picking people that are going to succeed, because obviously we know that home ownership is not the vehicle for everyone, and we don't want to set people up for failure. And then Habitat for Humanity, they have their own model that they follow, which has been quite successful, and that's a sweat equity process, and they would be handling all of the selection for their own home.
And that, excuse me, I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump up too quickly, but there's no way that somebody could do this and then within a year turn around and sell the house at a windfall profit. Is that right?
No, we put a deed rider on the properties, so that if you were to turn it in the first year, you'd have to give us back our dough. And if, you know, and the way the Housing Authority one runs is after 10 years, the loan is not the loan, but the rider is forgiven. So if you stay in the home for 10 years, you don't have to, we're not going to recoup anything, but it's a sliding scale over those 10 years.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mike Sullivan.
Yeah, you know, I think it's a noble project, but with all the other problems we've got in this city right now, and the limited amount of funds that we have available in CPA, to take on a project that's only going to benefit 2 families, I think we've got to really focus on things that are going to help a broader spectrum of the population. If we had a $10 million budget or something like that, I could see it, but we're really restricted, and I think we've got to spend the money where we have, where we can affect more people than just 1 family or 2 families.
Know that if Mimi was here, and she'd be a lot more articulate than I will be right now, she would point out all of the research about how blight negatively affects a wide area, economically as well as socially. I and just the value of bringing a lot back online, not only in terms of taxes, but just in terms of the value that it gives to a neighborhood. So if she was here, I know that she would say it forcefully, much more so than I can.
I'm absolutely certain she would say that. And I agree about that part about the blight, but this isn't going to, 2 houses is not going to cure the blight in that neighborhood. If you want to go 200 yards down the street from there and take a look under 391 at the homeless community that's set up under there with an outhouse and some of the other stuff going on in the neighborhood and what the kids have to see and the programs and all the other needs of the youth in that community, that 2 houses is not going to take care of the blight program. Just take 1 block over, walk 1 block over to Sargent Street and see what's going on. And that's where we've got to find ways to focus this money.
So what's another project that makes more sense?
I agree.
You're asking me that?
Yes, please.
Well, I'd have to see the whole list of what comes before us. I can't propose projects, you know?
No, I know. So what are the other projects that might make,
Merfield,
so maybe we should take a look at some of the other projects.
Parks.
Well,
If you'd like, I can list the projects.
Yes, that'd be good.
I have a question before you leave the housing.
yeah, let's go ahead.
Well, let's stay with housing.
Yeah. Well, I was just wondering, I do have a question because I was just wondering, we said that we were going to maybe think about not doing any housing projects and saving that money, the money we would spend in our housing category on the rental assistance program in case that comes up. I don't know. Maybe I missed something. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what happened with that? We're not doing that.
I think effectively what we heard was that given the timeline, it might make more sense for us to consider that with our next round of funding, which opens in July, than to move forward right now with this pot of money because it isn't an emergency right now, but could be next year.
Okay, that's
Wait,
fine.
are we
That's what I
basing
want.
this on what was discussed in this one meeting? Because I don't know, there are probably different opinions on that, you know, as like what we heard from Mike Moriarty at the last meeting. So I'm just wanted to make sure people realize.
Also, we also saw that Alicia Zoller and them got $734,000 for COVID-19 CDBG money, and supposedly we're hoping that they're gonna use some of that for rental assistance too as well. That's why people are kind of feeling a little like off of what we were the last time from the last meeting.
Okay.
Well,
that sounds good.
I mean, I'll just add it, and none of us have a crystal ball. It's really difficult to know what the demand is going to be for rental assistance or housing assistance funds out of the CPA. And we don't know whether any is going to be asked for at all for certain. But we know that that's out there, and that should be something that we're, contemplating as we're voting on allocating, $220,000 to this application. So, I mean, that's.
So is it?
I have
120?
120.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
I have a lot of respect for both organizations, the Habitat, Holyoke Housing Authority, their Habitat for Humanity. They're both great organizations, very reliable, and they'll do a great project. So I have no problem about supporting that.
So if the request for $120,000 was approved for proposal, we would have roughly, if we're going on the very conservative estimate, of a total of $560,000, which is much lower than, of course, like the initial $615,000 that we thought we might have this year. So under the most conservative, estimate, we would have $204,000 left over if we awarded $120,000 to HHA for this project. And we still have to discuss the Armor and Company application for $90,000, the Holyoke Armory restoration project for $400,000, and of course we have the One Holyoke CDC housing project for $199,000, and then 3 parks requests from YMCA, for Mayor Field, and for Jones Point Park.
Mike Falsetti.
Mr. Chairman, for $120,000 from our committee to build 2 homes is very reasonable. The impact would be felt. It's needed. It'll be a continuation of the Hope 6 project development. It'll be a nice touch. It's needed. For $120,000 from as our part of the story, to build 2 single-family homes is well worth it.
Okay, so we've had a motion made to fund 120. We've had a second. We've had a lot of discussion. Is there anybody else that wants to say something before we call for a vote?
I'd like to say, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Lynn.
I was just
saying the same thing.
Yeah, I'd like to see us do one thing under this category anyways. And, you know, one of the parks out of for open space, and, you know, so that we fund something out of each category anyways. That's
okay.
My opinion.
That's
Rosemary?
No, I feel that. I wondered if we shouldn't take a look at all the projects before we actually take a vote.
Well, that's not the way we've been doing it. We can't
I know.
do it that way.
I know. I'm sorry.
We know all the projects that are there.
Yes.
We know how much money this is. I mean, I just
don't think it's going to be fair to have deliberation, though.
I'm going to call for a vote. We have a motion and a second. We've had a lot of discussion. So all those in favor of funding $120,000 with the Habitat Humanity Partnership and the Holyoke Housing Authority to build the houses on Jackson Street, all in favor?
I'm going to go with aye.
Okay, just keep your hands up, please.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see 5.
How many do we need to pass this?
5. There's 8 of us, so we need 5.
9 of us.
5, right? We have 1,
Okay.
2, 3, 4. We had 6, I think.
So it passes.
We had 6 out of 8. 6 out of 8 yeses.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Okay.
So Sarah and Matt, you're welcome to stay with us. No one will think you're leaving the party early if you go now. So up to you guys. You're welcome to stay or.
I just want to say, you know, thank you very much. I appreciate your trust in the fact that we're going to be good stewards of the dollars, and we certainly will be. And I will say, I appreciate all of you volunteering on what is a very difficult board. It's a very limited budget with a lot of very worthy projects. So thank you very much for your volunteerism on what is a difficult board.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, thank you.
Izzy, before we move on, can I ask you a question for clarification?
Sure.
So, because I think I misunderstood what you were saying earlier. So were you saying that you supported the Dwight Street project instead of this one?
If I had to choose one of the two, I would say the Dwight Street project, because that community needs more investment. I like the Jackson Street project, but that community is nice already. It's like I grew up in Jackson. I know Jackson Parkway and how it was, and I know how this place is now. It's pretty awesome. But now I see Dwight and Beach as a place that really needs some love and care. If you drive by, you'll see it. But it is what it is.
Thanks. I just was trying to understand. Thank you.
Well, we don't have to do an open space project.
That's right. We don't.
So don't forget $56,000. If we're saying our conservative estimate is $560, then $56,000 has to be spent in each category, or we just have to put it to the side and keep it unencumbered until the next cycle.
200, 199, 100, or something like that.
Okay.
Out of a total of 389.
Right. So
Yeah,
much
so about
less
199.
leverage, but
Okay.
and I
I
think
feel like, go ahead.
Go ahead, Izzy. Sorry.
I mean, I feel like it would be a lot more impact to the people in the community with with regards to like what Megan was saying, what Mimi would have added with regards to how the community around and the people living within the community get to see like investment in their community, like people actually buying into it. But for another day, we can move in those directions.
Well, right. And they can resubmit this application, you know. So, I mean, I don't think that means that project's dead, you know, and my sense from Michael Moriarty was that he would rather see us preserve some funds in case he's looking for some housing assistance across the city, and you know, instead of allocating the funds to building the houses that he had proposed. But because I think he was thinking he's going to be really busy scrambling, trying to keep people in their homes, and the luxury of building additional housing can wait till a subsequent round. So
that's cool.
Okay, so do we have anybody else want to make
I've been waiting. I just wanted to mention that there's actually, if you're going by the 275,000 that you said before, Kip, then there's 155,000 left if you're going with that conservative estimate.
Okay, so we're looking at about another $155,000 before we start pushing.
Can we talk through the math one more time then? Because
sure.
In the notes, then my math is not correct.
Amy,
I thought we said that. Can I just say what I have in the notes and you can correct me? So I wrote, so far $235,000 has been recommended for funding out of approximately $615,000 in a high estimate and a conservative estimate of approximately $560,000.
235,670 is the total of the 4 projects that were passed last time.
Right.
And
plus 120 in this one.
Okay, maybe I was off. Let me just read.
Because I did the math off of the conservative estimate of $560,000. And what I got after spending $120,000 or proposing $120,000 in spending, that we would have $204,000 left.
Hold on, I'm just doing a little math myself. So do you have that with the 120,000 that the total committed funds is 355,670?
Let me do it. Sorry guys, but I feel like this is important to get right.
Yep.
No, you're right, because then you have to be correcting it later.
So yeah, well, like 200, I'm coming up with $205,000 left.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I have $204,000.
Close enough. Close enough.
So for conversation, we have $200,000 to consider recommending.
Before anyone makes a motion, can we just talk about the 3 parks projects in comparison to each other?
Did we figure out how much is left? I really think that's important.
200.
I think we have $204,000.
I have 214,330. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, maybe I did something wrong.
Close enough.
Like Kip said, 200,000. It's
close enough for us to have the conversation, Meg. I think you want to have, which is
exactly.
That, you know, now I think we've allocated a lot of money in historical. We've allocated a lot of money in housing. The third category is open space and recreation. We have several applications in front of us.
So I'm sorry, you got 204,330. Okay, that's what I have too.
Yes. Woo. Well, because, and I'm saying I'd love to talk it out because I feel like I see merits to all 3 of the projects, and I'd love to hear people's thoughts on which one they think would be the best project to put forward.
Okay, so I agree. Let's have a conversation about the 3, I count 3 remaining projects that are in the open space recreation category. The Holyoke Y for 148,000. We have Mayor Field for a reduced amount. Okay, we're there. I'm going to come back to the Y because we did get them to split it down to 2 phases. So the lower amount was 88 at the Y. The lowest amount at Mayor Field by the Park Department is 155, and the lower amount for Jones Point, also proposed by the Park and Rec Department, is 155. So 88, 155, and 155. So we can fund, I would say, one of the 3. And, you know, remember that the Y, you know, again, we could look at if the Y were your project, you could fund the whole, we could do, you know, 148,000 and give the Y everything that they wanted. We could give 210 to Mayor Field or 200 to Park Slope. I mean, we don't have to give them, you know, I think it's up to us to discuss whether we want to go with the lower amounts that they were, or go up to the original thing that, which obviously is what their original asks were, and gives you more as a product for the more dollars. So
I'd like
something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I'd like to speak about the Mayor Field project. For me, that's a no-go, and I'll tell you why. Because of the location. It's very hard to cross that street. It's a very busy street. The park is not used that much for the recreation. You know, they have a lot of baseball games and soccer games and stuff like that there, but I don't see too many people crossing that street to go over there and use the playground equipment. And that's what this is about. So to me, I'm not even going to look at that project. I mean, this is just my opinion. So I'm looking at the other 2, the YMCA and the Jones Point at this.
Can I say something from the parks perspective?
Yes, please.
Mayor Field and Park Slope, Oxford Road, right? That's Jones Point. Both don't qualify for CDBG funding. So either of those fields, if they were to get any improvements in the future, they would be on Holyoke's dime, like the city's dime. We'd have to come out of pocket somehow, some way. And I mean, right now, the way things are, I don't think Holyoke has the money in the near future to fix any of those parks. It would be awesome to see one of those 2 parks funded, just because they live in communities that are in Holyoke's, within Holyoke standards, are what you would call affluent, I guess, right? Because of that, they don't qualify for the funding that would actually help them get new fields. Like you would go to the Flats. I helped organize for the Flats to get a new basketball court down there. South Holyoke got new basketball courts. All these communities get new basketball courts. They get new fields. But there is a part of Holyoke that gets neglected because they are not they don't fall under certain circumstances. You get what I'm saying? So for me, I feel like one of these 2 projects, maybe not now, but in the future, I guess, hopefully can get funded, because I played baseball at Mayor Field. It was awesome. And I feel like the kids need a new field, either as Mayor or Jones Point. Jones Point is the same thing. They just got new tennis courts. It would be good to do the whole thing all over again, to add with the new tennis courts that they just got too. So whichever one, I mean, it is.
Mike, go ahead. But it's not to fix the fields, the baseball and soccer field. It's just for the playground equipment. So
nobody uses it because it's rock. Like that playground equipment is older than I am. Like, why would anybody use that?
I don't doubt that, and I would be, I'd be willing to fund that eventually in the future if we didn't have 2 other nice projects too to look at. Let's put it this way: the Mayor Field is my 3rd choice.
Mike Falsetti, you had your hand up. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, of the 3, Mayor Field is my first choice. It's precisely because it has been neglected. With the tax base being what it is for FY21, I don't see the coffers of the city of Holyoke bursting with money. That's got, the Park and Rec is nowhere to go but to us. There is simply, I doubt that the mayor is going to allot very scarce tax dollars to do over this park. I think the park is needed. There's really nothing else in that neighborhood, and it's primarily single family homes. The reason not a lot of people go there is there's not something to go to. This is their only shot, is us. Like I said, with the taxes potentially not doing well whatsoever, the park department is really stuck. And I think it's our obligation representing the homeowners whose money we're spending to give them something to cheer about, to make life a little bit worth living, to make their neighborhood a little bit worth living and enjoyable for their kids. It's primarily single family homes, and they really don't have anything in that immediate neighborhood to look at. And like I said, I can't see the mayor awarding money to the Parks Department for this for next year. He's going to be having trouble paying for the lights and the heat. If the tax dollars aren't going to be there, the Parks Department is stuck. So I am for this, and I would like to consider $155,000 to pay for it.
Okay, Mike Sullivan, did you have something that you wanted to say? Mike Sullivan, oh, I thought you were raising your hand. I'm sorry.
Can I just say
I'm just
something
soaking it
about
in.
the numbers, please?
Go back to the numbers that we have left to spend.
Yeah, I'm just looking back at my notes and wondering if you want to keep that estimate of what we hope to come in at 570,000, or if we want to make it a little bit lower, because as I had said before that at this point we have a total of 541,000, but then 5% deducted for admin, which pays for my, my salary, comes to 514,250. Of course, the year isn't over yet. So I don't know, my thought is that maybe it should be 560,000 minus the 5%, which would come to 532,000. Just a thought,
I think we can safely go with what we originally estimated would be our budget for this year for now. And if it changes, then we can always go back to it and reduce the funds. Our votes are not binding, so that we can't go back and say, well, we can make a different.
Well, I have a question about that, because I wasn't sure if some people have asked me, oh, was this money awarded? And I've, like Bob Parent, and, I'm wondering at what point is it finalized that I can let these applicants know what the commitment is. Like I did tell Bob that, it was passed. He asked about Wisteria Hearst. So if these are really not final, I just need to know that.
My assumption was that you were sending the orders to the city council for the May 5th meeting. Well,
right. We're making recommendations to the city council to fund, and we, on all the projects we've voted for so far, and maybe one or two more. So, that was one of, so we could have done it in two submissions, but I think Mike Sullivan probably makes sense. We're going to have a package of 5 or 6 of them instead of doing 2 submissions to the city council of our recommendations. But, we've taken binding votes on the projects that we've recommended. I suppose we could reconsider something, but I don't know that we want to start.
Yeah, I'm just responding to what Elaine said, that these can be changed, because I want to make sure I know what the final decision is.
Okay, well, we'll at the end of the meeting, we'll make sure that's all clear for everybody where we are and what our next steps are going to be. So does anybody, look, I'm going to say about the parks, we're in a weird time right now. Nobody's using these parks. Nobody's playing on playground, on playground equipment. And, that would certainly be in my mind if there was a proposal in front of us for a program that didn't include, what would be now clear violations of social distancing. I just don't know how quickly families are going to be running back to playgrounds. But that's what we have for applications in front of us. So if we're going to fund a program in this funding cycle, it's going to be a playground. We could always fund nothing, roll the money over, and see what comes for a proposal next year. I'm not recommending that. I just want to say that out loud. So, I think that's true of all three of the projects. I think there are three really good projects in front of us. I think we can clearly vote to fund at the upper limits their original asks, any of the three. And so I don't know, anybody else have anything? You want to make a motion to fund one or the other? Or
I just wanted to add one point, though. I hear what you're saying about parks. On the other hand, it seems like what I'm hearing is that the first areas that might be reopened before other areas are probably going to be parks. And the fact that this construction and the work will take time for it to happen. Yeah. So by the time it's open, these areas might be one of the few areas where that do become open. So.
Right. So, okay. So look, Mike Falsetti, you have something?
Mr. Chairman, I just think it's in a time when our spirits are a little low, it's good to see or to give the taxpayers whose money we're spending a park that sorely needs updating. And like I said, it's all single family homes. A nice park right there would be just what the doctor ordered. And for $155,000, and again, they have nowhere else to go. There's no supplemental budgets. There's nothing. It's what the mayor's decision is. And I dare say, with the amount of taxes that may be coming in, this may not be a banner year for tax collection. So I think to give the people something, I think we should do Mayor Field. It sure needs it.
I'd like to make a motion that.
Or go ahead and Mayor.
No, that's okay. If someone else wants to talk about stuff, go ahead.
Right, Meg, you say something.
I feel like I keep hearing, I don't know Mayor Field well, and I keep hearing about the traffic and safety concerns. And I just, so for folks who are thinking, yes, I'd vote for that, what's your thought around that?
So the traffic and safety concerns is if you're literally crossing the street all the time, right? The park is fenced off. Kids, your access to the park consists of crossing the street, but hopefully if you're going over there with your parents, and mostly the stuff that are going to be built there is going to be for younger kids anyways, that should be going over there with their parents. You hope you cross the street in Holyoke on Northampton Street, Friendlies, you go to all these places that are almost as busy as that street would be. Cars do fly up and down. I'm not gonna lie about that. But like Mr. Falsetti said, there are a lot of families there in that neighborhood that need that park. And I remember Harold Santiago had asked me when I was running for city council, hey, what's up with Mayor Field? And he was my counselor at HCC. And he's I live right behind there. You guys don't care about that part. You guys left it for dead. He said that to me a while ago. And I was like, I don't know what to say to him. Talk to your city councilor at the moment. But it's not under the CDBG catchment area. So it's not something that I could just be okay, let's go talk to Alicia Solar or let's talk to Terry Shepard and try to organize so that we can get money in that direction, because it doesn't really work that way. That park and Jones Point doesn't really have the traffic issue because it's a little secluded in a little corner. But Mayor Field needs it too. Either one, I'm with either project. The only question I would have about the YMCA project is, what is the access for the community to use the park if they build it? Right? And who can use it and how many people can use it? Is it going to be just their members? Will it be open during the day while they're open only? Will it be open to the public after their hours that are they're closed? Because that's another situation like the Boys and Girls Club.
So it's very similar to the Boys and Girls Club, Izzy, in that, you know, in order to get the funding, they have to provide public access, right? But that can be moderately restricted. And, you know, in conversations with the people in the Y in their presentations, they understood that they had to provide public access. What they wanted is, you know, similar to the Boys Club, when they actively have a program going out using it, then, you know, they want it just to be them for the most part, but that other times of the day it's open to the neighborhood. And their arguments in favor of you know, that proposal was similar, that there's not really anything else there. There's the other park, it's not McNulty. What's the one that's
Avery Field?
Avery, and then across the street from Avery, right?
That's Mitchell, I believe. Mitchell Field.
So you know, there's those two, but they're not young families, and the Y is taking their kids out of the program. If they're going to go to the fields, they're going to, you know, Mitchell, and so, and there's issues there with.
There's also the skate park. The Lyman skate park is not too far.
Yeah, but you're not walking from the Y down there. These are young. This is
Boys
like
and Girls Club
kid
walks from the Y. Boys and
No,
Girls
I mean,
Club
this is
kids
for
walk.
little kids. What the Y is proposing is for mostly for little kids. Now, so just to answer your question about public access, they recognize now it's not full public access like a, you know, like a public
like Mayor Field.
It's more like the Boys Club than it is like Mayor Field or Jones Point Park. So
okay.
Do we feel like the YMCA project would have more people who would be taking advantage of it because they already have existing programs than building a park, or, you know, like a new parkscape, an area at Mayor Field or Jones Point Park? I mean, there's almost never anyone down in Jones Point Park when I go, but it's also not like the playground at this point has construction tape around it. You can't even go on. Most of it's like not safe. They have to just rip it down. So that's also partly why I think it's not being used. But
that's it. That's the mystery. You know, will people use these parks, these playgrounds? I mean, you know, and you know, the Park and Rec put forward the proposals to spend money on parks this way. Now, you know, do I wish that they were proposing upgrading the baseball field or
the Mayor Park? I think does include the field.
It says baseball and soccer equipment.
Yeah, there's a little bit of work on the field.
No, just it's ADA compliant play equipment for that field.
But it says, yeah, for the baseball and soccer.
But there's no ADA. You know.
No, but the field is going to be done as part of it. I remember that from the presentation, that they have to totally redo the whole field.
Yep.
As like that's why the site work was so expensive.
Right. So, anybody want to make a motion to fund a park?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we give the YMCA their phase 1, 88,000, and fund whatever's left over to Jones Point. That's my motion.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second it just to get the conversation going because I think we should have it.
Go ahead.
I already said my piece in the reason.
Anybody have any comments on? We have a motion and a second, which is to fund $88,000 at the Y and the balance of $200,000 or so on Jones Point Park. So that's like 120,000. Well, no, 110 really.
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Marco.
I actually live near Jones Park. It's probably a 10-minute walk from my house, and I've been in the last couple of months. I probably have been there 4 or 5 times, and usually I see one other person there, and it's kind of hard to reach, and it's in a, like Izzy was saying, it's a little bit of an affluent. I mean, it's in the Highlands. It's like, do lots of people use that park? Is that the best? Like, I'd be happy to see it improve, but I just wonder if it has the visibility, the usage that other places do. Like, I'm sure the Y, thousands of people are going to use that, every year or every month. I don't know that you could say the same for that. Is that our best? Is that in our best interest? That's all.
Mike Sullivan.
Good point.
Yeah, well, just for everybody's information, I live 3 houses away from there.
Yeah, he does.
I've really got to question whether I should vote on this one. I should probably abstain. The thing I'd like to point out, though, Marco, is you've got the tennis courts are the big draw up there.
Mm-hmm.
The tennis nets have all been taken down. So as far as going by and not seeing anybody using it, I can tell you that during the summer, the spring, the fall, those tennis courts are pretty busy. During the soccer season, the place is mobbed. And they do use the playgrounds. The people that go to play tennis, the people that bring their whole families there for the soccer games, they also, a lot of them have little kids also. So it is quite active. Yeah.
Okay.
Mike Falsetti.
Mr. Chairman, Mayor Field, as well as Park Slope, but Mayor Field especially, they have nothing up there, and it's free. They don't have to join the Y or anybody else to pay admission.
It's
free. It's their tax dollars, and they're getting something in return for their investment. It's free. They don't have to join the Y to take part in anything, other activities, or to.
Well, you don't have to for the YMCA.
It doesn't cost for the Y. You have to join or belong. For these parks, you don't. It's your tax dollars. They're free. You can use them as you will, and it's part of it's your money we're spending.
Yeah, I would just like to add on to what Mike was saying, that I think that if the Y is passed for 88,000, I would really need to know information about what restrictions or terms the committee has decided for that in return for that money, because it is a private institution. And, you know, I think that would just be important to give to Mike when Mike Sullivan, you know, as part of written up recommendations, so that if the city council has questions about it, you know, they would just know that the committee has thought this through. So.
Well, it would be the same as the Boys and Girls Club, the same thing, you know, public access.
Well, actually, with the Boys and Girls Club, we really didn't have all the details. And then we found out later that the access was really not as much as we thought it would be. So that's why I'm saying, because of having learned a lesson with that, I think it's really important to know, like, how much time would be available to the public. Because actually there's no, the Holyoke Boys and Girls Club is not open to the public when they have programming, which is most of the time. So it's very limited hours to the public.
So we'd have to find that out from the YMCA.
I feel like if we gave $120,000 to Jones Point Park, based on what Israel said, would it just be throwing it away? Like, would they be able to do anything with that? Unless we came forward in July and said, actually, now here's the other 80 grand. I know that they said they would much rather have one park fully funded, and the lower amount effectively just means it's like a much smaller scaled playscape area, because nothing else really can be done differently in terms of like site costs and parking requirements and ADA compliance.
Yeah, their reduced amount was $155,000.
Yeah.
And I think that also had to do with the substrate that they can use, like rather than the rubber, you know, ground, they wouldn't be able to do the poured rubber. It's one of the things they mentioned.
But I'm wondering, if we give them 120 and not 155, right, like, could they even move forward at all?
That's a really good question. I think that's a good point.
I think that would mean that they would have to rely on the city to fork over the rest of the funds.
Or they
This isn't going to happen
next year and ask us for more.
And that's not going to happen. Like, I mean, I don't know.
I think.
Or they can come back next year and ask us for the rest.
If you handed them $120,000 or $112,000 and said, make some improvements to your playground with this budget, could they do it? And I don't know whether they could or couldn't. The guess is they probably could scale something back and effectively, if you gave them $112,000, they could probably make some improvements on it.
But would we want them to do that? right? Like, is that the will of the committee to have like a really, to put in 120 grand and have a much reduced project versus fully fund it and get like a really great project?
The YMCA is going to have to come back to us a second for phase two.
What we're dealing with is we have a motion and a second to fund the Y and Jones Point Park for a total of $200,000.
Wait, I'm sorry. I really need to know the details because I think there's only 204,330 left. So that means that if you funded the Y, it would be for 88,000 and there'd only be 116,330 left for one of the park projects.
Yes, and that's what the motion is for.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
And the YMCA is going to have to come back to us for phase two next year now. So, they can come back. The Jones Point, the Parks and Recs can come back to us for a second, an amount in the next round too.
The only difference though is that Parks already, their reduced amount was 155,000 because they originally asked for 210,000.
So that's Jones Point.
That's both Mayor Field and Jones Point went down to 155,000. So that was their reduced amount. The Y's reduced amount was from 148,274 to 88,000. So I think they're trying to give us an idea. This is how much we need to do something. So,
Mike Sullivan, you had your hand up to say something again?
Yeah, yes, I did. One of the things that I think we ought to keep in mind is that one of the things we wanted to do with these CPA funds is to have these groups leverage them to get other grants and use this as a tool to make other funds and get other funds available. I'm not seeing where anybody's coming and saying, hey, if you give me 50,000, I know I can get 50,000 here. They're all looking for the entire amount or a huge chunk of it just out of CPA alone.
Well, I think that the YMCA has, not that that's not where my vote's going, but anyway, I think that the YMCA has done some other projects that have initiated funding for them to do good things, and they didn't leverage against CPA funds, but they did do other things to make projects happen.
Yeah, I agree with that, but right now I'm not seeing any of these projects.
I agree, Mike.
And saying they're just going for the whole ball of wax.
Right.
I'm not going to make the motion right now, but I'd like to see it tabled, that we go back to them and say they're all in consideration. We'd like them to see them work a little harder and come to us with a proposal that's showing we've got this lined up, this lined up, this lined up.
Right.
If you'll give us this much.
You can make that motion now.
Well,
Mike.
Well, a motion to table is not debatable anymore. And then if anybody wants to keep on talking about this for a few more minutes.
I forgot what I was going to say.
There's a motion.
I had a motion in a second, and we're discussing. So one of the things I was going to say is it also gives us an opportunity not just to say to Park and Rec, can you leverage any other money to this thing, but also, is somewhere in the neighborhood of $112,000 to $116,000 of any value to you? I mean, why vote and make a recommendation to them if they're going to say, they would surprise me, but they might come back and say, look, we can't get, it's like an all or nothing kind of thing. We need the bare minimum 155 to get anything up there done productive. So
I think it's a good question.
I don't, I mean, I'm willing to go either way. I'd vote or, because my guess is if you go to them and say, we're going to take 100, and it's a good guess, we're going to take $112,000 to improve one of these parks, we're probably going to say yes. But
I don't have a problem with waiting, tabling it and waiting.
And which park are we talking about?
Jones Point.
Yeah, I mean, park. Yeah, well, I mean, I think I would ask about both parks. They asked for 210,000. They came back and said they could get a reduced scope of 155. maybe if we went to them and said, look, what we're asking is, would $112,000 or $116,000 get anything done for either one of these parks? Maybe they say yes at Jones and not at Mayor, or vice versa. So, and you know, I think the Y is pretty straightforward what they're looking for. So we had a motion and a second to fund 88,000 at the Y, combined with, I'm going to say 112,000. It could be 116 at Jones Point Park. Do we want to call for a vote, or does someone want to make a motion to table that?
I'll make a motion to table.
We have a second to table it.
I'll second it just to, yeah, because I think everybody's got a lot of questions. I mean, I don't want to push, you know, people voting on parks and the funding for it unless all the questions are answered. So, you know, I don't have a problem with tabling it.
So we're going to take, so, okay, all in favor of tabling?
Okay, I'll table it.
So we have enough. Meg, what are you voting to table or no? Okay, so it's almost everybody. So
we can't talk about it anymore, but I mean, we can
make
talk about what we're looking for, though. We can talk about what we want from the discussion, you know.
Well, and I also, you know, we can direct, so we know what we're, Amy, can you try to reach out to the Parks Department and see if there was approximately $115,000, would that be of any value to them?
Yes.
Well, besides that, Amy, I think what we should be doing is not just seeing if the 116 is of value to them. I think the answer is yes. All we're going to get is a smaller park or cut back on some costs. What we'd like to see them do is do the 200,000 thereafter and use the 100,000 as a tool to go after, whether it's, you know, marijuana companies, whether it's other federal funds, other organizations, whatever. They've come up with other grants before. You know, they don't want to go mining for these.
Or matching grants.
Yeah, other corporate sponsors, whether it's banks, what have you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I also wonder about community level of support for Mayor versus Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I know we asked that and we didn't really get an answer, but I would love to get a better sense of a community level of support, whether that's a survey, whether that's a fundraiser. I mean, I don't know.
Fundraising.
If somebody asked me for money for Jones Point Park, I would give them money, but no one's asked me.
I like that idea. I would give it to both parks.
What did you say, Rosemary?
I would give to both parks if I was asked to fundraise over either one of them.
Okay.
Well, there you go, Izzy. You got some work ahead of you.
The thing is,
come and get us.
I could do that. I could start something, the Friends of Jones Point Park or the Friends of Mayor Field.
There you go.
But at the end of the day, that I'm not sure that the city's gonna be the one to do that, right?
Oh, okay.
No, I think Parks. I think Parks and Rec could find out. The Parks and Rec department could find out which park might be more of more value to the community.
I agree.
Well, she did say that she made Mayor Field the priority. I don't have in front of me the notes for why she said that, but she did say that was their priority.
Oh, that would have been good to know.
But that's their priority. What's the community's priority?
Yeah.
She specifically
according
named
to
that
David Bartley, I think that's his ward, and he's been fighting for Mayor Field for a long time too.
Yeah.
What was that? I didn't hear.
David Bartley has been fighting for that field for a long time, and I believe that's his ward.
Who is David Bartley?
Tell him to get a GoFundMe
Counselor.
page going.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, hey, listen, he's the city councilor. He's kind of,
Let me
I'm
give
just
him
referring
a
back
quick
to what
email.
I've seen and what I've heard. Like,
He's doing his job, right? He's advocating for his constituents. He wants
That's
funding.
right. That's right, as he
As they
should.
all should.
That's what he's supposed to do.
That's
That's
right.
right.
I agree.
So we tabled that motion. I don't want to make a motion to this effect yet. What I want to do is gauge whether anybody wants to get involved in a discussion about this motion, which would be to consider the funding for the Y separately from the parks, like not hold it up while we go and have the conversations. I'm not making a motion yet. I just want to see how people react to that, or whether we should just table all of them and come back and revisit
Well,
it.
yeah, because there was a question at the Y and as to how much public access there was going to be. We have that question about them.
mm-hmm.
That would be a good thing to know.
Okay.
If it's going to be as bad as the Boys and Girls Club or not.
Right.
Okay, so then I'm not going to make that motion, and maybe Amy, we can reach out to the Y for some clarity on what public access would look like for the Y.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything they want to make a motion to consider, or when? Okay, so I guess that's the end of agenda item number 2. We can move on to an other business or a motion to adjourn. At your Mike Falsetti.
Mr. Chairman, it pretty much sums it up. The only thing we haven't looked at, if you so choose, that's still an applicant, is the Holyoke Armory Restoration, the Armor and Company, and the MIFA Victory Theater are 3 applicants that, if you so choose, we can talk about now or later on, but there's still applicants here at the FY20. It's up to you.
Does it make sense to pick one that we know we're not going to fund just so that it's done?
Yes.
Do we make motions to not fund?
Sure.
Not yet.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Chairman, it's up to you.
No, we can make, and that's a legitimate motion. Someone make a motion.
About what?
Well, like making a motion to not fund the armory or not fund a particular project.
That being said, if I may, I'd like to make a motion not to fund the MIFA Victory Theater application.
I'll second that.
Who seconded it?
Sullivan.
Mike and Mike.
Okay.
Any discussion?
I would just state that I have nothing against the project. And if we had a lot more funding, I would be interested in talking about it. But things are just really limited. I think we have to try to balance a lot of different stakeholders and interests across the city. And we've already given them money on a different funding cycle. So I'd like to see that money go elsewhere this year since we're so limited.
I agree.
I agree with that, yeah.
Exactly my sentiments as well.
Well, I just want to say I love the MIFA project.
We all do.
I want to see it get funded.
We all do. We just want to see it.
And I would even support, a significantly smaller amount to show some continued community support. But
Well,
we'll see if we have any left over.
I'm speaking during the open for discussion. Anybody else have anything they want to say about the MIFA application and the motion to not fund at this point?
I'm not on the committee, obviously, but I just want to mention that one one possibility would be to see how things go with the money that's already been committed, and then to move from there.
Yes, you're right, Amy.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I would want to make sure that that the motion and the vote in front of us does not prohibit us from coming back later and talking about funding MIFA at some reduced amount. So if it's not clear that the motion and second allows that, then I would propose to amend the motion to make sure that the language is included, that we can come back and reconsider this vote for a smaller amount. This is the full $100,000 request.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Well, nobody made the motion, Mr. Chairman. Nobody made the
Yes.
motion.
No,
Yeah,
he just made an amendment to the motion, and
I just made it. I made a motion to amend Meg's motion just to clarify the language to say, doesn't mean that we can't come back and revisit the MIFA application for a lesser amount. And we had a second on that, so I guess it's worth talking about that anymore. Just have a vote on that.
Yeah, we'd have to have the
All
first
in favor
motion.
of amended motion?
No,
No,
Mr. Chairman,
wait,
can you
wait.
clarify that?
Sure.
I have a motion that was seconded.
Yeah, no, wait a second. The amendment, the vote should be now the original motion plus the amendment, the amended motion, meaning the original motion was not to fund it, and the amendment is what Kip just said. So together, we're voting on those two things together now.
Not to fund it.
Not to fund it,
But to be able to revisit it.
but to be able to revisit it if there's some money left over or whatever.
That wasn't my motion, Mr. Chairman.
I know, but he amended it. He
Who did?
amended it.
Kip,
Yep,
Well, who
Well, you
seconded
did,
it?
Pluto,
I did.
We have, hang on, everybody. We have to vote on the amendment.
on the amendment.
Yeah.
Not the amendment. All right, and then you vote on Mike's, right.
On the amended
Whether-
motion.
on
So
either-
we're voting to amend first, and then we will vote on the amended motion.
Or on the original motion, if the
Or on the-
amendment
If it
vote
doesn't
fails.
pass, right. So all in favor of the amended motion, which basically reserves the committee's right to go back and reconsider MIFA at a smaller level. All in favor of that amended motion?
Aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4. Izzy, is that a 5? So we have 5.
Okay,
just to
sorry.
be-
Can I have hands up? So no's on that are Sullivan, Falsetti, McGrath.
Right.
Okay. But it still passes.
So now we have an amended motion to not fund MIFA
right.
with the potential to revisit it at a lower amount. So all in favor of that?
It's Mr. Chairman, it's contradictory. If you don't, if you.
No,
if you
it's
vote not to
okay,
fund
Mike.
it, that's it.
We're voting no for the full funding of the $100,000 that they
That
have.
wasn't my motion.
What was your motion?
My motion was not to fund it at all. That's what Mike Sullivan seconded. That was the original motion.
It's okay. We're voting on that now. We're not gonna fund it unless there's by some circumstances, we may have a few bucks left over. We could reconsider it, but for the most part, we're not
That's
gonna
all.
fund it, okay? We're not funding it.
So all in favor of the amended motion?
So
Like, okay.
what are we voting on now? Hang on.
Hey, good question.
I'm a little confused.
Voting not to fund it,
To not fund.
to
Okay.
not fund.
To not
Okay.
fund
Right.
But to be able to return to it.
later on if some odd reason we got money.
Right.
Okay.
No. Not
Oh,
if we
wait.
got money. If they came back,
And look for less money.
If someone on the committee decides to make a motion to fund a lesser amount. Okay, so
Okay.
everybody who doesn't want to fund MIFA but reserve the right to be able to reconsider it in the future.
Let's see.
So we're not funding,
We're not funding, but we're reserving our right.
considering. Okay.
So that's a no for Sullivan, Falsetti, and Rivera.
No,
We
Mike,
don't-
I mean,
Or are you
Oh, we're
abstaining?
voting-
I'm sort of confused still because
Yeah, I'm confused.
earlier it sounded like we're not funding, but then when you said like we're gonna put an amendment that we won't fund, but unless they come in with another amount, and then I kind of said yes to that, which is I get it, right? But now we're gonna do another one saying that we're not funding for the same thing that we just voted for.
The
Yeah.
vote should have been
Yeah.
for the amended, there should have just been one vote for the amended.
Right, because we're kind of voting twice for the same thing,
Yeah.
it sounds like.
I know.
We
But
voted
this-
to amend the motion, and now we're voting on the motion, the amended motion.
The only time you vote two things like that is somebody makes another motion, and then you can vote on that one first. But we should have just voted on the amended motion, original motion for one vote, but that's okay.
All right, so,
We're voting not to fund right now, so.
yes.
Not to fund, period.
So I'll raise my hand to that, I guess.
No, it's not to fund, right? If I'm wrong, correct me. My understanding is we're voting not to
Not to
fund,
fund.
but there's an opportunity in this vote to revisit it. It's not off the board, rejected, can't be funded at all.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chairman, that's not what I proposed.
Right.
But
So
I modified it.
people could all vote no, and then we could start again with the original motion.
That we didn't have to vote to amend it. So,
I don't know what the confusion is. I think it's very obvious to me what we're voting for here. We're voting not to fund it, but if by any chance somebody wants later on, if we have any extra money left over, someone wants to make a motion to put some towards VIFA, we can. That's all. And we're still voting not to fund it, but at this point in time.
At this
all
point,
right, all
no
in
funding.
favor of that? Not funding, reserving the right to be able to fund in the future. We have 1, 2, 3, 4,
Right, so,
5,
yeah, so I'm game with that.
6. We have 6.
Okay. All right. So I'll put Falsetti. Okay.
All right, anybody have any other motions they want to make on projects that, what about the armory? Does anybody want?
I make a motion, we not fund it, if that's possible.
It is. A second?
A second.
Any discussion on that?
No.
All right, all in favor?
Hold on. Whoa there. Let me get my gallery out.
I forgot where my little thumb was. Where's my thumb?
Okay. So Armory,
There it is.
Arnold against the vote.
Yes.
Okay.
What was the vote for that? How many out of 8?
It was 7 out of 8.
We all set?
Yep.
Yep.
Anybody else?
I think on the
What about
last,
the Armor and Co?
I think on that one, I think we should just table that one for now too and see if maybe there's some, we have some funds available at the end or
Which one is that?
that Armor and Company. I mean, I like that project. and
I love it.
I want that to be developed. I want that to happen.
Me too.
Yeah,
I think in light of everything going on, I like the idea of supporting a business owner.
Voting,
I agree.
supporting what?
I like the idea of trying to support a business owner who's trying to revitalize and bring back these buildings and still honor their historic quality.
Yeah, exactly. But
So-
if we fund a park, we're not going to have money left over to do that. So that's why we need to wait and see. Let's table.
We don't have to deal with any other projects now unless someone else has something that they want to make a motion to fund or absolutely not fund. Otherwise, we can just pick up this work at the next meeting and, we have a little more information and we can go from there.
Right.
This is why I wanted to combine budget cycles. I really
Yes.
wanted to fund the Armor and Co. What I wanted was, I love everything we funded so far. Like, I have no disagreements. But I really wanted to fund a park and also be able to give some amount of money towards the Armor and Co. project, and we can't do both.
Well, we don't know if we're going to get any money next year either. So
Mike Sullivan.
Yeah, I'd like to speak in favor of the Armor and Company project also. Mainly because also the developer down there has a proving track record now of being able to pull things off. And it's fantastic.
Do good work. Do good work.
Well, we don't have to do a park. That's all. We don't do a park.
Well, but remember, open space has to be $56,000. So
thank it.
We could what?
Or we could donate 56,000.
No, we could.
Well, we could. One option,
yeah,
would be for us to say we're really doubling down on historic this time around. Last time was a lot of open space and rec, right? We could say, hey, we're kind of balancing it kind of between these two funding cycles. And this time we're really going to fund almost every historic project we can. And we're just going to take that $56,000 and put it to the side.
That's right.
And keep it encumbered for Parks and Rec for next year, and then be able to have, enough money to fully fund a park.
Yes.
Up to $210,000. Like, I think that, to me, I would be okay with that. I would rather do that than try to have someone pull off a park for $112,000.
Yeah, that's a good.
I like that.
Good option, Amy. That's a good option, Amy.
You mean Meg?
Meg.
I mean Meg. I meant to say Meg. Yeah, sorry.
Happily be Amy.
Yeah. No,
I think that's a good point. Very good point.
So if we don't vote to fund a park, we are in effect rolling $60,000 into the next funding cycle that's dedicated to that, which would be combined with another approximately
10%
for the next fiscal year.
And that comes up it can come up in July.
It absolutely could.
Yeah.
Yeah, the amount in parks will grow because it'll be a new 10%, and the old 10% will remain in the reserve.
And then we can dip into the other bucket, the discretionary bucket, for more.
If we have a project that we really like, but we can't fund, could we just say we're preemptively going to fund it next cycle? Like, do we have to have them jump through hoops to apply and represent and kind of go through it all again as if they're brand new?
The committee might change though, and you might have different people voting. So, just, you've got to keep that in mind.
The committee is going to change. Because there'll be
but one of the things that Kip and I talked about is that if there was already a CPA fund or a requisition in, and it didn't get passed, or it got tabled for a while because of the circumstances in the country right now, that maybe they could just present a letter that said they want to keep their project moving forward to the next cycle. And are we open to that?
Not have to reapply.
About next year?
Right, for next year.
Just talking, the thing about the CPA is we do have a tremendous amount of flexibility as far as how we run the application process and the funding cycles. We could do one this summer and an expedite. We're allowed to do emergency projects. We have the ability to do that. So that's always should be in our mind when we're considering how we're voting on these projects. So right now, if I, kind of going in a little bit different direction right now, we said we would ask, the 3 applications for the parks to come back with us and answer, questions about accessibility to for the Y, but then the 2 city parks, whether there would be any value in us awarding them somewhere around $115,000, or whether they would prefer to wait. So
would they prefer to just hold out and maybe get the full funding?
Right. And then Mike Sullivan mentioned, if they had that money, could they leverage it to get a match from another funding source?
Right. So, I think we're waiting for some information before we want to. I think it's the consensus of the committee to wait till we have more information before taking up funding of one of the parks. And it could be kick all of them off until the next fiscal year and combine funding, Meg, and recreation category for fiscal 20 and 21, and be able to fund higher amounts of some of these parks. That's totally within our ability and our authority to do something like that.
Well, if we have 200, we said roughly we have $204,000 left, or 200,000. If we gave 90 grand to Armor and Company, we would have $110,000 left, which we could say we were going to roll over with this understanding that we would make sure that we were fully funding at least one parks project next year. I mean, granted, the committee can shift, but like that would be our hope for that funding.
And I'd like to see Mike Moriarty come back next year too for the One Holyoke CDC, for that project under the housing category. I don't want them to think we're shutting them out because we're not funding them this year. I'd like to see them come back next time.
So should we talk about Armor and Company and see if we should fund that?
Someone can make a motion.
Well, I think we should wait and hear from Parks. That's my opinion. I think we should wait to hear from the Parks, see what they have to say.
If anybody wants to make a motion, we can discuss it. If we want to just wait and take this up at our next meeting after we get some more information, we can do it that way too. Whatever the will of committee. So anybody want to make any more motions on funding any of the projects, or you want to? Okay.
Sorry.
My dog. Can you hear her?
Go ahead.
We have now, you've passed, or accepted 5 different projects, and I know the city council is meeting on May 5th. Does the committee want me to go ahead and write something up for Mike for those 5 projects, or do you want to hold off till the next meeting?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think your view.
Move them forward.
I think you should do the 5 and.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, what do you think? How do you think the city council wants to deal with this?
Well, you approved 5 projects. You're recommending funding for 5 projects. We ought to get them in front of the council.
I agree.
My sense is it's not going to go as quickly as it did the last time around. I think this time they're all going to get sent to either finance or DG&R for a bit of a discussion. I don't think I'm going to get these through on the floor on the first night. So
you didn't think you were going to get them last time either, though.
We believe in you, Mike.
Hello. Go, baby.
And Mike, don't forget to remind them they need to appoint somebody for my position here, July 1st, come July 1st.
Mike Falsetti, what do you have to say?
Mike Sullivan, procedurally, what do you think is the city council would be most comfortable with? Digesting the 5 now, or wait until they have the full amount of all the projects approved in front of you, or would they prefer to have it piecemeal?
I don't think it matters to them one way or the other. It's they respect the work of this committee, that's for sure. If you've approved 5, I'd say get the 5 out there.
Okay. Okay.
Do we need to vote this, or is this just simple enough to say?
No, we don't have to do a vote.
Okay, so we're just going to, Amy, you're going to write something up and get it to Mike, and he's going to get it onto the agenda for the city council.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm fairly certain that this time around they're all going to go to committee. So
That's fine.
That's their job, right? I mean, we give them to them; they do with them what they want.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we're good. Everybody's good with that, and was giving 5 of them to start the process through the city council. And if we add more, it probably will be added onto the next subcommittee meeting anyway. They'll still be there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let's get it started.
Okay. Been a long meeting. Everybody had enough? I mean, there are other things I know we want to talk about, but I think they can wait till the next meeting.
The next meeting is when? Because I'm a little concerned about Armor and Company, but,
Well,
so when is the next meeting?
when do we want to meet again? I mean, do we want to meet again in a week?
Sure, but not Thursday, not Thursdays.
No, can we do, we'll try to get back to next Wednesday as long as we're not in conflict with virtual space, which is what happened, why we had to go with Thursday this week instead of Wednesday, right? So,
I could take a look at that right now and see whether there's already a meeting on May 6th.
I started to set up a meeting on the 6th for the local historical commission at 6:30.
Nice, Marco.
I could move it to Thursday.
Oh, is there any other meeting, Marco, on May 6th?
At the time, there wasn't.
I can try to look at it, but
I still have to get the agenda out, so I can't move it up, but I could move it back.
and
well, I don't know if I can.
Council's meeting on what day?
Tuesday night. Tuesday night.
Cinco de Mayo?
Yes.
Okay, so let's shoot for the 6th. Marco, if you can try to accommodate that with your...
Okay.
Does that work for everybody? Try and get together on the 6th again at 6 o'clock, and we'll try to bang through the last few. Hopefully we have some feedback from Parks and why.
Yes.
And then we can, maybe Amy, if it's possible, we can get an update from the tax collector, maybe another 50 grand to come in, and there's more money there than there was 3 weeks ago.
Well, because we are operating under a very conservative estimate currently, which I think is prudent, but we are operating underneath that.
So just see if it's...
I'm seeing another meeting on May 6th, and it's the license board. Let's see, when is this? At 5:30, so that doesn't seem like that would work to do it on May 6th. Because we have to share the same Zoom account. The whole city of Holyoke has to share the same Zoom account.
They need to get a couple of Zoom accounts. They're usually
actually
happening at the same time.
They are working on it. Actually, Ryan said that they are going to do that, but I don't know if they may have it by May 6th. So we could say that if they do get that other account, I could try to get it scheduled for May 6th. And if they don't have it, let's have an alternative. Let's have a plan B if we can.
So is Tuesday better for you?
Or we could wait a whole nother week if you want to push it back to the following Wednesday. Mary, you said you didn't like Thursday, so it was a problem for you.
Well, if I don't want to hold things up just for me, so I'll be there, but I'll just be late like I was tonight if you want to do Thursday.
And I think that can be a conflict for Mimi as well. But I don't see city council down for May 5th. Are we sure that that is the date that they're having a meeting?
Yeah, the 1st and 3rd.
Yep.
Okay. They're not
Tuesday of the
listed
month.
there.
So do you want to go to the 13th?
Yeah, I think if the 13th could be like a plan B, there's a good chance that we might be able to, if they do get that other subscription, we might be able to do May 6th.
Okay.
And then otherwise go to the 13th. I don't think that's a problem.
Okay.
That works for me.
Okay.
Mike, you're good?
Yeah, I just had a question for Israel. It looks like Israel.
Did we lose him?
You there?
You're probably muted.
There you are.
He's trying to swipe it on his phone.
Yeah.
It looks like you're hopeless.
To bed.
Yeah, I thought you were blessing me.
The meeting would put the baby to sleep, but it looks like it's working on you and the baby.
She's all into it, man. I had to mute her. She was trying to chime in. Trying to chime in on the Parks, man.
Man, he's going to be like a little wrestler.
My daughter, my daughter is going to play softball, so she needs the Parks to be ready for her. She needs the Parks to be ready for her when she gets bigger.
Make a motion. She can make a motion.
She tried to, but I muted her. I told her.
I like her round cheeks.
Time yet.
I think her motion might be to adjourn now.
Yeah.
Why don't you make the motion, Israel?
For what? To adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Here.
Okay. No discussion.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.
Hey, thank you, Kip. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Megan.